So I bought a pineapple last week so I could show you all how to cut a pineapple, and then life got away from me. And I'm sure that happens to you too. So we're still going to use my kind of sketchy looking pineapple because I see no mold or anything growing on it, which is always important. And it still smells fresh. I probably won't be able to do that trick where you plant the top of the pineapple and grow a new pineapple plant. That's okay. It's just a fun trick. But beyond that, I think it's still okay. And it's a little softer because if you've been paying attention to our tips, if you let it sit at room temperature for a day or so, it softens up, just like other things do when they're sitting out on the counter. There are a lot of great videos out there about how to cut a pineapple. I am not the foremost expert, but maybe I'm a familiar person and a little reeler, and so we'll see how this goes. First of all, I note that my sleeves are long, kind of gonna be in the way, and this is juicy, so we're gonna get those out of the way. And then you take your pineapple, put it sideways on your cutting board, and you're gonna cut off the top with your fairly sharp and fairly large knife. And then you're gonna cut off the bottom. This is a really common first step. My knife isn't very sharp and it's a little tough. That's because it makes it easier. It'll actually sit firm. You don't have to worry about it rolling over while you're doing it. So then you're gonna take your knife, and you can do a couple of ways. And so I'm gonna show you those couple of ways. So I'm gonna cut this pineapple in half again so that we've got two pieces to work with. Okay, so pineapples have a core, right? You know that. It's this, it looks like you can kind of see it. See how it's kind of like there's a circle there and it's tougher. It's not that it's poisonous or anything. It's just that it's not good. It's not really edible. It's real hard to chew. It is not worth the effort that you put into chewing it because it's not very flavorful or appreciating. So the first way is you take your knife and you cut down the sides of the pineapple. Trying not to hit my head while I do this. And you're gonna cut off those edges, right? Because you also don't really eat the edges. Okay. And then you can kind of look back over, and if you see any of those spots that are still there, if there are a few of them, you can kind of skim them with your knife. If there's just, say, one, you just use a little paring knife, which is just a little knife. But you get those out. Again, they won't hurt you. Well, they might hurt you, actually. Sometimes they're kind of tough. But they're not major problems. They're just not pleasant. So you don't want that. Not when you're going to the trouble of using a real pineapple. Okay? So I've cut those off. And then I'm going to do this cool thing. So you can cut, well, we'll show you that in a minute. You can cut your chunks, but you can also cut your circles, right? You can still, even though there's that hard core, the knife goes through it, right? So if you go through it like that, and then you take, if you happen to have a little round thing, I have this set of biscuit cutters, and this is the little bitty one. But so you can see, it's not that big, right? Like, it's just like about 2 fingers wide, which is perfect because we're just cutting the middle of this pineapple out. So if you take it and you slice out the middle, especially if you situate it better than I just did, you can pop that middle right out. They do make pineapple cutting tools. I don't have one, but it's another way to do it that you could kind of cut through all of the, like it cuts it, it spiralizes it, it makes it just easy and fancy. And so that's another way to go, especially if you're a big pineapple person. Turns out that my center thing is a little small, it looks like. So it takes a little more wedging to get it through. So that didn't quite work, but what you end up with are those, fancy circles that they have, right? And then you got the little piece of core that got left behind. Okay, so that one would be a circle, but really it's like pieces already. So that's one way to do it. The other that is pretty common is you just take your pineapple again, cut it in half. Okay, and then you have your half, right? And then you can kind of see, and so you can either cut it in half again, and then cut out that core like that. Or you can cut like a V where that core is. You just cut toward the middle and eventually your lines will crisscross and you've cut out the middle. And then you can cut the sides off. Your call on what's gonna work for you, because here's the main thing when you're cutting a pineapple. You're just looking to get the sides off and the middle out. You can try and do it in a way where you have the circles. You can try to do it in this way where you're just gonna end up with like triangles. Just, you know, bites to just pop and eat, because those are definitely good. I'm not gonna show them all to you because I'm not an expert, but there are fancy ways that you can do it too, right? So the point is, get it whatever makes sense for you, make it work. One more tip that I have for you as I've been sort of finishing to process this one after I stopped recording is that I tend to be one of those people who's real cautious because they don't want to waste good pineapple. And so what I'm finding is that there are spots where I left a little core, or, you know, there's still some of the edge. And like I said, those aren't going to kill you or anything, but they're not pleasant. Why would you do that to yourself? It's really kind of worth it to try and get that stuff out, because otherwise you're going to end up sad that you put the work in and you still didn't end up with the perfect pineapple. That's not what you want, right? Okay, that's just my advice. That's how you cut a pineapple.